Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's today's episode of 40K Today.
Hello, 40K Today listeners. We have a very special episode today for you. This is our 100th episode. So we got the entire gang together. All 6 of us are here on this show just to talk about what a journey it's been getting this podcast off the ground. And we thought you might enjoy our discussion. So I'm going to go around the table, but let's just start with, we'll start with Steve, because I think you're the first person that I pitched. Why don't you tell everybody about what you thought about the idea of 40K Today when I pitched it to you?
Terrible. Hated it. No, obviously, John, when you first mooted the idea, I loved it. There was nothing else around at the time. To be fair, I think the plan was for me to help you out a little at the start and be kind of a consultant as a radio professional to help get things up and running. No idea did I have that I would be swimming in the deep end with you, right the way through until recently. So you're a very persuasive, convincing man. And I think that's part of the success of 40K Today so far is just your ability to really get people enthused about a project and get them on board and get them into helping you out and, everyone, doing their part and lifting their load. And it's been a ride, man. It's been so much fun. There is nothing else out there like this, which you identified straight away. And so, I was all on board immediately, and it's been great.
Yeah, I remember we were talking, and it just occurred to me, Steve. I was just like, why don't you just do this with me? Because you're putting in so much thought and effort into it, and you clearly had 40K Today would not be the show that it is if it wasn't for your inputs and everything that you put into it, because you really set up all the structure. You taught us, how to do good interviews. You taught us how to lay out a script. In a lot of ways, it's kind of your baby, and I really, really appreciate you for that very, very much.
Well, thank you very much, mate. All I really wanted to do at the start was voice funny intros for you. That was my plan, and but it's gone way further than that. And now look at the team you've assembled. How good is this?
We're so lucky. Let's move to the next member of the team. I think the next person that we added was Seamus. And Seamus, you'd been working with me on Art of War. And when I came to you with this idea, and I explained to you how, I basically couldn't pay you, but I wanted you to work every single day to edit this and make it sound great. What did you think of that?
Well, first off, I have always been very thankful for the opportunity to work on Art of War with you and Nick Nanavati. So when you pitched another show, I was ready to go. I was like, here, let's get this thing going. I'm ready to do it. And I'm ready to keep doing it for 100 more episodes, honestly.
That's awesome. And honestly, Seamus, your contribution can't go underappreciated, because basically the show sounds great. And a lot of that, you do a lot of work on every episode to clean it up, make it sound amazing, level it out. Basically you make us all sound great. And I super appreciate that very, very much.
Anytime, sir. It's what I do best.
Yeah. And then the next person we added to the team was our own Alex Bainter, who a lot of you probably don't know well, but I know him. He's in my local area. And Alex always has impressed me with, number one, his diligence and his sort of ability. And there's not a lot of 16-year-old kids that I would put a lot of responsibility on, but Alex is absolutely one of those. And Alex, what did you think when I pitched you the idea of coming on board and helping me find cool stuff to highlight?
Well, I thought it was kind of crazy, the idea of putting on a show every day. But, 100 episodes in, I think it's really, really cool. And, it's really come together.
Absolutely. And again, Alex is the one that helps us find a lot of the things that we highlight on the show, right? Because Alex is I would call you a 40K super fan, right? And
yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just plugged in, and you're a kid, so you got a lot of time. So you spend a lot of time on the internet, right? All right. And then the next person we added was somebody that was one of our first guests. She was one of the first women in Warhammer that we had on the segment, and that's the War Mistress, Tanya. And we just had such a good rapport with you. And I think you and Steve really hit it off. And then Steve started bugging me. He's like, we could have Tanya do our social media. She's really good at that. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea, but I can't pay her. And I don't want to put like all that work on somebody and on, whatever. And I didn't really realize what we were missing out on until Tanya got started, and it was like one day in, and I was like, holy crap, this girl is a worker, and she does a ton of good things. So Tanya, thank you for joining the team. And what did you think when Steve started talking to you about maybe joining the team and doing this crazy daily podcast?
So when Steve had first pitched to me the Women in Warhammer segment, I was really excited because it aligned with my values, with everything that I was trying to do with my own social media. So then, we kept talking, and I really felt like a strong connection to the podcast and your guys' message. So I kept saying, like, if you need any help with your social media or anything like that, I would be absolutely on board to help. So then when he asked me to come on board as part of the team officially, I was beyond excited. I really believe in what the podcast is doing and the message that you guys have. So I'm just super excited to be included, and I'm super happy that you took a chance on me.
It really wasn't a big chance. I mean, anybody that watches you can clearly see that you're very competent and you do a lot of great things. And I'll tell you, you've made such a difference for helping us get the word out about the show. Our social media platforms have grown exponentially since you joined the team. And now you're even doing interviews and scheduling. You've really picked up a lot of stuff, and I really, really appreciate it. It's amazing.
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to step out of my comfort zone quite a lot.
Yeah, I've got to say, you're amazing at it, Tanya. It's just been you're a fantastic addition to the team. Everybody in this team is so good at the individual parts they play, and from my point of view, I really appreciate it.
Aw, thanks, Steve.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the latest member that we added to the team, and that's the one and only Paul Murphy, who has been doing this kind of gig for a long time. And if you really think about it, his show, Forge the Narrative, is a lot like our show, just in a longer form format of what we're doing. So we just got to talking one day, and I just thought, gosh, I would love to have Paul involved with the show. So I talked to him, and he jumped on board and has been helping us out with doing some links and some interviews and adding, a little more diversity in our voices that are out there. And I really appreciate that. So Paul, what did you think when I started talking to you about maybe jumping on board?
Well, obviously I've been doing this for a while, and I hear a lot of shows. I mean, I get a lot of things kind of come by my way because there's a lot of stuff out there. But this is one of the ones that I think has a little bit of uniqueness to it, has a nice, almost like breath of fresh air to what's going on out there. And I mentioned this on the show before in our conversations, but the culture of how I approach the hobby and the segments, the entertainment, very similar, and was happy to help out.
When John told me that the Paul Murphy was coming on board, I have to say I got a little fangirlish. I was very, I've loved Forge the Narrative for a long time. So when I understood that you and I were going to be part of the same show, it was a big moment for me, Paul. So thanks for being part of this.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you very much. I mean, this is this is fun. This is something that's when I sit down to do some recording, it doesn't sound like work. It doesn't feel like work.
Right. Exactly. We can talk hobby all day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the crazy thing, and I'd like to get all your guys' perspective on this, but when I first started thinking about the show, I'm like, 15 minutes a day. I mean, sure, that's a lot, but it's only a 15-minute show a day. That's not really that bad. I can find 15 minutes to record something, and this will not be that bad. I'll just do it every day. And now we have a team of 6 people putting the show out 6 days a week, right? And here's what I learned. Planning a 15-minute show is way harder than doing a 2-hour show, which makes no sense to me at all. I don't understand how that works. But go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, I'm gonna jump in here and take some of the blame for that, just because when you and I were first talking about the show, John, you were, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in your mind it was a 15-minute show of you and I maybe, or you and occasionally someone else talking for 15 minutes about what's going on. But with my experience in radio and broadcasting, I've always felt it's better to have, if you're going to talk about some big event, it's better to have someone from the event or from the situation in with you to give you their perspective. So I said, hey, why don't we do that? Why don't we just get people, whenever we're talking about something, interview someone from the thing we're talking about? And that's created a lot more work for everybody. So I apologize, but I do think it's worth it. Man, I love it.
I do too. I think that's great. Today's episode of 40K Today is brought to you by Frontline Gaming. Frontline Gaming is a one-stop shop for all your Warhammer hobby needs, discounted products, American-made gaming mats and terrain, and a full line of miniatures painting service and daily hobby content. And this can all be found at frontlinegaming.org. So let's go around the table, and I guess, Steve, since you just talked, let's start with you. Where do you see us going? Like, do you see an end for this, or do you think we're going to go for a while? What do you think?
I don't see an end for it, and I don't see an end for it because there is just so much happening all the time, and Games Workshop is a part of this. You know, they have really, if you look at through the course of 8th particularly, and now into 9th, the release schedule is so quick, and there's so much going on. So that if you just look at the new models and the new stratagems and the new books and the new everything that's coming out all the time, the newsy section of our show is always going to be possible. But we also look at tournaments and the competitive side, and so there's always new tournaments coming on. I don't know how many tournaments there are around the world in any given weekend once we get out of the current COVID situation, but it's a lot. So there's always going to be that. And I also love the fact that we deal so much with the hobby side of it as well. You know, we really spend a lot of time on the other big part of this that I love, which is building and kit bashing and painting and, you know, that model of the day. So I don't see why there would be an end to it, because they're just, I guess we finish up when Warhammer 40K finishes up.
Yeah. Seamus, what do you think of that?
I really hope we have some longevity. I just picked up a bunch of Gene Stealer cultists. You guys got me into this thing.
You hadn't played 40K, right, before we started this little adventure?
That is correct. My dad has always been super into 40K, and I remember having a couple Tau a long time ago, but I've never played a full game.
Well, it's a good thing you started with a really easy to understand and easy to use army.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's my own fault. I'm just too much of a sucker for alien people.
Yeah. Alex, how are you feeling? Are you in it for the long haul? Are you going to be hanging out with us for the next, I don't know, 3, 5, 10, 20 years that we do this?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't see myself ever like putting away 40K. And if I ever did, I don't think I would ever like stop making the podcast with you guys, you know? Such a great team to work with.
It is really fun. How about you, Tanya? What do you think?
Oh, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm a lifer. Yeah. I just really, like I said, I really believe in the message that the hobby is for everybody. And as long as we've got a team that's willing to put forward a product, I'm along for the ride.
How about you, Paul? What do you think? I mean, you're you're newest on the team. What are you thinking right now?
What on earth did I get myself into? No, just kidding. I mean, this really is a team sport. You know, our team endeavor is probably the best way of putting it, and it's nice to see everyone sharing a little bit of the load, and that makes it better. That's going to put out consistent audio every single day, every single week on their release schedule, and continue to find people out there that are as energized and wanting to share what they're doing. Like what I've found out over the years is everyone loves to talk about 40K. But to find people that'll do it, and they'll do it consistently and routinely and in a way that you can actually record and put out there is uncommon. So to find, all you folks that are willing to do it and put in the time to actually produce the content past it is really amazing.
We really appreciate that. I think my favorite part of the show, and the thing that has been the thing that is I'm very proud of it, and so that's good. But the thing that I like the most is the number of people that I get to talk to across the hobby. It's been very much a blessing. So I don't know if we want to go around the table and maybe talk about, what we get out of the show, but that's what I get out of it, is an excuse to reach out to people that I might not ever reach out to. Like Damian Long, for example, is a good example. The guy that was doing all the face masks for the pandemic, right, on his 3D printers. What a great guy. And I would never have crossed paths with him. He's in the UK. Like, it would have been very unlikely that I would have got that opportunity to make that connection. But, I'm going to be interviewing him next week again about 3D printing, because he's just such a great human being. And I'm thankful that I've got to meet so many people. So, like, Steve, how do you feel?
There are two things. I know we're running out of time, so I'll be as quick as I can. But there are two important things that I really want to say here. One is that when I first got into 40K, I was in a pretty dark place after some family tragedy, and I discovered this game, and I honestly believe it saved my life. And I have loved it, and I love being a part of it. And I really think what the podcast, the attitude of the podcast, and what we're able to bring is a sort of relentless positivity. And the world is going through a lot of crap at the moment. And if you just stay on social media, you'll see a lot of moaning and complaining and people who are passionate about it, and that's great. But I love that we're just relentlessly positive about what we're doing and how much we're enjoying it, and the fact that it is fiction and it's a game, but it's also a big, important part of people's lives. So there's that, I think, which is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about being a part of this. The other important thing is, what I've taken away is how many amazing people I've met and maintained contact with. I'll use the example of a guy named Tom Adriani, who's from Austria, and he's a big part of the WTC, but we keep chatting now. And many, many other people as well, guys like Stephen Box in the UK and plenty of other folks around the world. I actually, you guys haven't seen it yet, but I've done a map of the locations of all the different interviews that we have done over the 100 episodes. We are legitimately the most international 40K podcast in the world. We've been to so many countries all around the world, some of them multiple times, from Japan to New Zealand to Australia to Austria to the UK to you name it, we've been there, even Atlanta.
No, I was going to mention, that we represent several different countries and even a couple of different continents on this broadcast right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of amazing how we've all been able to come together. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about where we started and where we've gotten, and I'm excited to see where we're going to go in the future. So Seamus, how about you? Like what are you most proud of, and what has this brought for you?
I think the biggest thing for me is that, like, when this podcast really began to grow and I saw people were receiving it very well, it just always makes me so happy to know that people are treasuring the work that we're putting into something, right? Like, whether it be releasing a song, in this instance, it's a lot of podcasts, right? One every day. And it's just awesome to be able to connect with this community that I am very new to. I'm really glad that I have the opportunity to work with you all and to voyage forward into the hobby in whatever way I can. Right now, I've been on a huge painting kick.
Awesome. Alex,
nicely put.
Very nicely put. Alex, your turn, buddy.
Yeah, my favorite part about this whole deal is like the sense of community and the community building. Because a lot of times, like, people will go to like tournaments or whatever, and they'll get to enjoy the community aspect during that. But this is an everyday thing where the community can come together and listen to this podcast. So that's probably my favorite part about this.
Also, very well put, Alex. That's an excellent point. All right, Tanya, your turn.
As a whole, I'm pretty proud that we cover multiple different aspects of the hobby. I feel like other content creators sort of focus on one aspect of it and don't really delve too much deeper into it than that, whereas we try to get a little bit of everything. So I'm pretty proud of the diversity of our content in that way. And as for myself, I'm very proud that I stuck with it, because in the beginning, this was very difficult for me to put myself out there and actually do interviews. So I'm pretty proud of myself for just staying the course and keeping with it.
We're all very proud of you, Tanya, because we had a lot of talks with you. We were like, we know you can do this, and you proved Steve and I both right? So yeah, I appreciate that very much.
And I appreciate all of your guys' support when I was really struggling there.
Well, you're doing awesome. All right, Paul Murphy, why don't you close us out, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up.
Oh, with what can't you get out of this? You find out that other people out there are struggling with the same things that you are. It could be how to assemble that model, how to paint that lens or whatever. You get perspectives from all over the world. Can't go unsaid. We find out again that we're more alike with the folks out there in the world doing the same thing than we ever thought we would, and you get to hear that and experience it every day.
All right. Well, it has been an absolute honor to do 100 episodes with you guys. Like it is, I absolutely love the fact that we're on episode 100. I love that we're doing this podcast that I'm very proud of. And I think the sky's the limit for. And I'm glad that you're all on this journey with us. So cheers to all of you.
Hey, John, one more thing before we go. Don't forget, it's the model of the day. It's going to be in your head now for a while.
Oh yeah, I guess we should not forget to mention that was all Steve. so if
It
that's
sounds like it. I'll just say that. It sounds like.
All right. Well, and I guess I would be remiss. Thank you to everyone that supported us and given us time to give us interviews so that we could talk to them, and listeners that have shared our content or joined in our polls, looked at our models of the day, used our hashtags. Thank you everyone for listening to the show. We're going to try to make it better every day. That's our goal, and try to bring you the best 40K content in the world.
See you tomorrow.